We're sitting here with P.S. Moody, author of Alibi for Arson, a Deidre Fisher mystery. How are we doing today?
Pretty good, pretty good. I'm a little nervous. I've never done this before.
All right. Well, we just want to introduce her new book, Alibi for Arson. Got a couple questions for you today.
Great.
All right. So, tell us a little bit about the book.
Well, it's a little bit of a mystery, a little bit of a romance. It revolves around Deidre Fisher, who's the heroine. She's an insurance fraud defense lawyer in South Florida, and she gets caught up in a rebound romance with an ex-NFL football player who sweeps her off her feet. And he's not a nice guy and tries to involve her in his insurance fraud scam for arson. And it's all about her trailing him across half the globe to catch a criminal and solve the mystery and then find love again.
Now, I can only imagine the thought that went into making a book like this. How did you get started?
Well, it's not easy. It comes from years of your work, the people you know, your experiences. It kind of all gels together, and you take little bits and pieces from things that you do in life. A long time.
Now, is this book based on real events and real people?
Well, I'm an insurance fraud lawyer myself, so I've had a lot of interesting cases with insurance fraud scams, canal dumps, arsons, fraudulent thefts, things like that. So it is a culmination of my professional experience and hopefully with a little bit of the humor that I've, obtained over 53 years.
Now, you mentioned a number of characters in this book. Who would you say is your favorite character?
Well, you would think it's the heroine, and I love Deidre Fisher because I think there's a little bit of Deidre Fisher in everybody. She's a romantic, she wants to solve the mystery, she's funny, but one of my favorite characters is the private investigator, Jimmy Ryan, who Deidre goes to and kind of seeks his counsel in helping to solve this double arson. He's a crusty old ex-New York cop. Kind of reminds me of my dad, who's an ex-police officer. So.
Now, a book like this, I can imagine, takes you quite a while to write. Do you ever get writer's block?
It does, and it took me probably a good year to write this book, to get the framework, go back, do the editing. I've heard about writer's block. Generally, people get it, but I've been super, super lucky so far. I have this philosophy where, I sit down and I free flow write. I don't work off of an outline. I just kind of write what's on my mind and I envision dialogue in my head and it just goes because you're pulling from your everyday experiences and how you interact with people. So it seems a lot more natural when you put it down. It just kind of goes. I've been really lucky, I have to say.
Now, when you finish writing your book, how can somebody go ahead and get their book published?
There are a couple of different ways. There is the traditional route of looking for an agent who will help you get a publishing company, or you can go directly to the publishing companies. I've spoken with a lot of different writers and editors, and even I have a mentor in this process who's a very well-known author. It takes a long time to go through traditional channels like publishing houses and agents. Especially when you're writing fiction, it's a super subjective thing. I didn't want to wait a year to get my book published. I decided to self-publish and do CreateSpace on Amazon. And there are good and bad points to it. You have to do a lot of marketing like I'm doing today with this interview. Twitter, website, LinkedIn, Goodreads is an excellent site to meet up with people who like to read books and review books. Publishers will do that for you, but you know what? You still have to be your own best marketer. So I would say don't worry about someone wanting to print your book. There's always an avenue that you can take yourself and take matters into your own hands. I wanted to get the Deidre Fisher brand out there. And for people to know her, because I have a whole series that I want to write, involving mysteries and her as the heroine. So
very nice.
Just went for it.
Now, going back to the writer's block question, you said you don't typically get writer's block. What would you say is your favorite environment to write in?
I have place at Starbucks that I like to go to. I happen to love Starbucks coffee, but I have a little table at Starbucks and I have a routine. I treat it like a job. I have a day job where I practice law 6 days a week, and every morning before I go to my day job, I spend an hour, hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours going to Starbucks and writing. So.
Now you seem really dedicated to your books. How long would you say it took you to finish this book?
This book, I think I mentioned it took a year, but you do have an editing process and then the publishing process. And honestly, by the time you're at the end of it, it's sort of like a bad boyfriend. You just want it to be over with because you want to get on to the next story because you want to tell something different. But you kind of have to juggle both. Yeah, it takes a while. You just have to have dedication and not get frustrated and just keep your vision in your line.
Speaking of getting on to the next story, do you have any other projects in the works right now?
I do. I'm halfway through my second Deidre Fisher mystery, which deals with a double homicide. And as you write more and you develop characters, because it's the same cast of characters from the first to the second book, they become more complex, and the plot of the mystery is more complex. I mean, that's just practice makes perfect. So as you write, your writing gets better and the stories get better. But yeah, so I would love to hear from the readers. I would love for them to buy the book, of course, but I want to hear the feedback, the reviews on Goodreads, the reviews on Amazon. I want to know what they liked, what they didn't like, which will help me finish my second book. And I have probably 4 or 5 other Deidre Fisher mysteries that I want to do.
Now, based on your experience and you writing a few books, do you have any tidbits of advice you'd like to give other writers?
I think everybody has a story to tell, whether it's fiction or it's autobiographical. Don't worry about being a good writer. Don't worry about it being perfect when you put it on paper. The key is sit down and just start doing it. Write it out. You can go back. You can fix it. You can edit it. Just get something on paper and get the process going, and it'll carry you forward.
All right. Well, we've spoken to the writers. Do you have any messages you'd like to give to your readers?
Contact me. Tell me what you think so I can make it better for you. I really enjoy it. I love the character Deidre Fisher and the people that surround her, and I want to carry it forward. So you can help me do that in a better way.
Thank you, P.S. Moody. We look forward to seeing this success and hope everybody gets a chance to read your great novel, Alibi for Arson.
Thank you so much.